Welcome to MSUA's Game Changers Live, where we speak with satellite and mobile connectivity thought leaders about industry trends, new technologies, and talk about what you need to know about what is coming in the future for satellite connectivity. I am your host, Lisa Dreher, and I'm really excited to introduce our guest for today, Christine Joseph. She is a special advisor at the Office of Space Commerce within NOAA. Welcome to the show, Christine.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for having me.
Sure thing. Maybe you can start by giving us a little bit of background on yourself and the Office of Space Commerce within NOAA.
Of course. So thank you for having me. My name is Christine Joseph. I'm a special advisor in the Office of Space Commerce. I work specifically on space situational awareness policy on our TRACS program and a host of other commercial space and issues and policy issues across the office as well. I like to say that I'm an engineer by trade. I did, that was my educational background and used to work doing engineering in industry, and then got turned into space policy, which brought me here to DC, and eventually the Department of Commerce and Office of Space Commerce as well. About the office broadly, the mission is really policy and advocacy as it relates to commerce in space. The mission of Office of Space Commerce is to help foster the conditions for the economic growth and technological advancement of the U.S. commercial space industry. And the office has actually been around for a number of years, but has been steadily growing both in terms of responsibilities and size and people as well. Right now, we kind of have three major divisions. One is a policy advocacy branch, really centered on a lot of commercial space policy issues and advocating for commercial space interests across the US government and a lot of international engagement work. The other major division is the Commercial Remote Sensing Regulatory Affairs Division, which is kind of the main division across the US government relating to the licensing and compliance for private remote sensing systems with jurisdiction in the US. And then the Space Operations Division, which handles space situation awareness. And as we're building up this civil space situational awareness capability, the office recently, this past year, about a year ago, used to live within the NESDIS division inside of NOAA and was recently elevated higher to the headquarters level in NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And NOAA is inside the Greater Department of Commerce. But the office also helps coordinate across the Department of Commerce, across all the bureaus, coordinating the space commerce activities and making sure that we're advocating for the commercial space industry as well. So we've got both the space operations aspect, a regulatory aspect, and this policy advocacy aspect to the office as well.
Wow, amazing. So it sounds like the OSC is doing a lot and there's a lot of initiatives. What are you doing, or what is the Office of Space Commerce doing now in terms of the continued commercialization of space and the satellite industries?
So we're definitely heavily involved. The policy and advocacy office is squarely focused on the commercial space sector, and there's multiple initiatives underway to support both the satellite and space industries. I've touched on kind of civil space situational awareness, which is a huge concern for satellite systems. As space activity and space traffic has been increasing, the Department of Commerce and the Office of Space Commerce has been delegated to build this civil space situational awareness system that'll provide basic SSA safety and STC and space traffic coordination safety services to all civil, private, commercial space operators. And we do this to enhance spaceflight safety, space sustainability, and international coordination. So we're building, go ahead.
No, that sounds amazing. Keep going.
So we're taking this opportunity to really build like a modern data framework system to be able to pull in the best of the SSA data out there, starting initially with relying on what DoD is currently doing, but also pulling in a lot of the commercial capabilities out there from commercial SSA providers and building that up over time to both integrate the data and also be able to procure tools and analytics from the commercial space industry to be able to provide these services as well to operators. And we're purposefully building this to be adaptive, both in terms of as space operators, like the satellite operators, like their needs change as as space activity evolves, and to be able to keep up pace with how technology evolves as well. We're
That's
also working. Oh, go
oh,
ahead.
sorry. Keep going.
So beyond just Office of Space Commerce, there's also a lot of things across the Department of Commerce. The DOC's Bureau of Industry and Security works with looking at the transfer of certain U.S. space-related technology from ITAR to DOC's EAR to be able to maximize U.S. industry competitiveness in overseas markets. Department of Commerce also has NIST, the National Institute for Standards and Technology, which has been at the forefront of advancing new cybersecurity best practices and guidelines specifically for space and satellite systems. And I already mentioned kind of our regulatory branch as well, which has done a lot in the past few years to really streamline regulations for the commercial remote sensing industry. I believe they have like the processing timeline for licenses down from 48 days in 2020 to now 14 days to process a license. And they're recently released some certain licensing conditions to really enable the U.S. commercial remote sensing industry to be able to put more of their advanced capabilities, be able to lead that nationwide.
Amazing. Okay, so from a user perspective, it sounds like you're doing a lot of support of the satellite service providers and operators. How does that ultimately impact the user community? And when I'm talking about users, I'm thinking, corporate users that are, larger entities that use satellite services and deliver those, for various initiatives, whether it be maritime or land connectivity or aviation, what have you.
I see it both kind of helping those users from different angles. On the SSA side, it's making sure that those services being provided by satellite systems can reach users and that they will continuously be there. That these satellite systems won't providing these basic safety services allow these satellite systems to operate safely in space and have avoid collisions that'll definitely impact the environment or put those services at risk. I mean, these satellite services, internet services have become key to so many different industries, whether it be Internet of Things, connectivity. It's and making sure that those services can continue to be available and aren't going to be at risk for future investment is where we see us helping in building that infrastructure, both on the SSA side. On the policy and advocacy side, we're doing a lot in terms of just advocating for making sure that these services and these systems are going to be continuously available and we're competitive across the globe, really. For example, oh, go ahead.
No, I'm good.
I can also add that NOAA, which we're also with, OSC is also within, is also actively buying commercially available satellite data to improve weather forecasting, for example. So currently, I think NOAA is buying 3 different types of satellite data: radio occultation measurements, used for operational forecasting, additionally used for a pilot study on space weather, and then recently this year, NOAA's acquiring radiometry data for a pilot on ocean surface winds. So lots of different applications.
Wow, amazing. When you think about, I guess, as the OSC is working with other governments and or NGSO or NGOs around the globe, how is that, I guess, helping to further the initiatives and programs that the OSC has running?
So I mentioned at the beginning that this policy advocacy branch that we have, which does a lot of that commercial space advocacy, but also a lot of the international engagements. So last November, we had the inaugural comprehensive dialogue with France, and that was held in Paris. And we held special sessions with both industry and government representatives from both countries to help enhance these business-to-business partnerships. And that went very successfully. And based upon that, we also recently this spring had one with Japan. So another comprehensive space dialogue that was held in Tokyo with an even larger agenda. And we brought a delegation of about 20 US companies there as well to both enhance and similarly from the Japan side as well to help enhance those business to business relationships. And we're just continuing this pace of international engagements. We're having upcoming ones with Korea, looking at engagements with India, Singapore, across Europe. We recently held an event with different leaders in the across Africa in terms of the space domain as well during the International Astronautical Congress. And all these engagements cover the different scope, whether it be commercial space aspects, space situational awareness, supply chain resilience, export control, regulations, cybersecurity. It's all areas where we can bring in this broad expertise that commerce has.
Wow. Okay, so yes, a lot of engagement internationally. Obviously, space impacts the entire globe, right? So having those engagements, it must be very important.
Yes, definitely. And we're even on the SSA part because we kind of see SSA like how users globally, whether they be operators in the US or EU, engage in their own SSA centers. We kind of see the future going where operators are really accessing a federated network of SSA centers in different regions. Like the US, we're building our own capability with TRACS, the Traffic Coordination System for space. There's going to be other systems, so we need to figure out how do we work with those systems operationally, make sure that we're all talking about data the same way, whether it be the standards, the formats, that we have an understanding of what data we can share so that, for example, if there's a potential collision and the US track system identifies a potential conjunction and another region's SSA capability identifies a potential conjunction, how do can we trust each other's? Can the operator actually make an actionable decision on that? So we're engaging right now with a lot of international organizations like the USST, other countries along with these engagements to make sure that in the near term we're talking about data standards, sharing practices along the same lines so that we can get to this global network that's really going to enable users globally to be able to access these systems in years to come and to be able to trust and have transparency in activities going on in space.
Great. That is so important. So when you think about mobile communications, obviously from a Mobile Satellite Users Association perspective, we're very interested in mobile satellite communications. What role is the OSC playing specifically in the mobile satellite connectivity field?
Certainly, I think part of that is engagement and coordination with some of the satellite companies involved in providing that mobile connectivity. So that's both in terms of ensuring sustainability and safety and transparency for the space environment, because this affects everyone, including those communications providers, including some of those companies in those realms as well. We've engaged specifically with certain companies involved with mobile satellite connectivity, both in terms of, like I mentioned before, like export control aspects, along with space situational awareness, cybersecurity. Additionally, across the Department of Commerce, we also have within a DOC the National Telecommunications and Information Administration, or NTIA, which works closely with FCC to manage spectrum. So NTIA works to ensure that there is enough spectrum to be able to enable those applications for mobile satellite users coming from commercial spacecraft, and making sure that other spacecraft and launch vehicles also have spectrum to work with. And NTIA is working with FCC and the State Department to prepare for the upcoming ITU World Radio Conference, and lots of decisions are going to be made there that are going to affect the future of space commerce and possibly the connectivity for these mobile users as well. So this includes satellite frequency allocations as well as the rules on the allocations for orbital zones, possibly for satellite constellations. So we see a lot of the work that we do in enabling this resiliency for the satellite communications providers that provide those services to the mobile users um, directly. And then also we put out a lot of like requests for public requests, RFIs, requests for information. We did one recently back in January on kind of what the scope of basic SSA services should be, and that's really aimed towards the public. So including the users at all levels, whether it's operators, folks accessing the services provided by those satellites, or just the general public interested in what's going on in space. And that's one of our methods of communication to engage with folks as well.
Okay, fascinating. When you look at the future requirements from a satellite perspective, and I mean, I think some of the things that you've been talking about so far, there's estimates, I think, of, I don't know, something like having 62,000 satellites in low Earth orbit by 2030. We'll see if that actually comes to pass, but that's a pretty highly congested space, orbit. How is the OSC looking at that, and I guess taking that into consideration as you are working with these other governments and just as you're talking about these policies and regulatory requirements?
Right, that's the future. And there's a big kind of research and development aspect to it as well. I'll mention one, so within the TRAX system that we're building for the civil SSA system, there's one component called TRAX Horizon, which is really going to be this research and development area, kind of almost a sandbox to be able to analyze, do research analytics, possibly develop new SSA or STC services without affecting the operations and what's happening in like this operational safety aspect of the side of TRAX separately. So TRAX Horizon one of these research questions in terms of like as the space environment gets more and more congested, there's this concept of like orbital carrying capacity. Is there a limit to really how many satellites can be in particular orbital shells, and that could also drive like how we approach SSA and STC going forward, not just within the US, but globally as well. So really that's one aspect where as we're developing TRAX, that's one of the questions that we're looking towards is, are there limits to how many satellites that there could be or not? How do we coordinate with other countries, both in the aspect of like the international engagements I talked to earlier, in our engagements specifically on space situational awareness, or coming to a better understanding, like the transparency aspect really comes into play there in terms of being able to share where satellites are and where they're planning on going, or having that traceability of who is going to maneuver or not, and having that transparency about where everything is and how people are intending to move can help enable a safer and more sustainable environment, so that we can better approach these questions as well. Because as things get more and more congested, it's critically important to try and prevent catastrophic collisions that'll impact these critical services globally.
Indeed. Are there any upcoming events or programs that the OSC is leading that you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah, so one upcoming at the end of this, beginning of next month, we're looking at it with the Republic of Korea and the US. We're going to co-organizing a Space Week. So that's going to have opportunities. And then I believe toward mid-December, we're working with the Italian Embassy on an Italian Space Day. On the TRAX side, we're working on having kind of regular, hopefully monthly listening sessions to the public to get feedback from industry, whether it's from satellite operators, mobile users, commercial SSA providers on proposals that we have for TRAX and like plans for a future Pathfinder study or a data standards topic. and to get feedback on and have that be a regular cadence of how we're getting feedback from industry, because that really is what the system tracks is for industry and satellite operators. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that the office is growing a lot and we are hiring. So we have a lot of postings online as well, all on our LinkedIn and the Twitter, or X, whatever I think it's called now.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have many events upcoming planned for both in the near term and hoping to be engaged in conferences and activities in the next year as well.
Fantastic. If somebody wanted to learn more about these programs, you're saying LinkedIn and X are the best sources. Is there a website they can go to?
Yes, we also have the Office of Space Commerce website. If you just Google Office of Space Commerce or space.commerce.gov. So that's where we'll have the latest information, recent news releases. We're also exploring some new engagement opportunities. So keep an eye on the website to hear about those. And yeah, we're spending considerable effort to also make sure that we're being engaged publicly as well, both in kind of forums like this and online, to make sure that we're reaching out the broader public about all the things the Department of Commerce is doing.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for making the time to be here today. It sounds like your organization is very, very busy, so we really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to be here.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Absolutely. I also want to take a moment to thank the Mobile Satellite Users Association for hosting these sessions. If you'd like to learn more about the Mobile Satellite Users Association, please visit MSUA.org. That's where you can learn how your organization can become a member of our great organization. It's been around for over 30 years and has been representing the interests of the millions of users and service providers around the globe during that entire time. And we also have a weekly newsletter that keeps you up to date on all of the latest news and events and programs that are coming up in the satellite and especially in the mobile communications industries. So thank you so much for being here today, and we look forward to seeing you on the next MSUA Game Changers Live.